the DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, the #1 sports information program in America, the Breakfast Bankroll, with your host, the sports broker, Jeff Dawson.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is your Breakfast Bankroll for Tuesday, April 1st, 2023. Our weekly trip over the Sagamore Bridge, which is our backup with construction, down Route 3 over to I-93 with our good friend and colleague, Julian Edlow from DraftKings Sportsbook. Shout out to DraftKings, had a nice plus 1,600 future on the Yukon Huskies. And as they were going to one shining moment, it was already graded and the money was in there. And I applauded Julian backstage. Shout out to Husky Nation. National champs, an amazing run. It really was from start to finish. 14-0, number 2 in the country. Big East tournament, struggled, and yet came March and April. And I saw the comparison to the UNLV 1990 team, and that was one juggernaut. For all you newbies, millennials, and stuff that don't remember Grandma Marth, the Tark and all those guys, go look them up. They were fun to watch. But it's today. It's DraftKings Day. It's Julian Edlow Day. Let's bring him in, the one and only Mr. Julian Edlow.
Dan Hurley and the Huskies made me so much money, I almost forgive him for leaving the Rhode Island Rams.
We talked all year, and that was always a touchy subject. And listen, Husky Nation were getting a little itchy. Not a good start to his career at UConn. They brought back a clip from 2020 when Villanova won it all. He goes, "You better get us now because we're coming." And it took 3 years, but boy, did they come this year.
Yeah, like pretty much never a doubt in the tournament. The worst spot that they were in was like trailing at halftime to Iona in the first game. And we knew that, they weren't going to get knocked off there. So it's the least doubt that a champion is left in terms of if or when they were going to get knocked out in recent memory. We can talk about the path. Like, I don't know if outside of Gonzaga, they necessarily knocked out any real heavyweight. Like, they avoided a Texas, a Kansas, a UCLA, an Alabama, a Houston. Like, they didn't have that one big signature win, I would say, that maybe we would, just for validation purposes, maybe you would have wanted them to see. But they beat the teams that were put in front of them handily. Smoked Gonzaga, so a good run for them, and they're in good shape moving forward.
I think the final number is 17-0 non-conference, 16-1 against the spread.
All double-digit wins, right? All 17?
All double-digit wins, that's correct. And their blueprint late in this tournament was a double-digit halftime lead, and then that first 5 minutes push it to 20, and then basically the game was over. They couldn't get it in the second half there. San Diego State hung around. 12 minutes to go, UConn in the penalty. We did have a token under 133, and of course it gets to 135. We know how that goes. But, with the plus 1,600 future, that was just a little throw in for the game itself. But, you brought up a great point there, because I think a lot of books got saved with a lot of UConn futures because of the bracket. When you looked at a Kansas, a UCLA, a Gonzaga, UConn fourth in that bracket. I think when you were looking at your brackets and your pre-tournament selections, you kind of pumped the brakes. They lost in the semis at the Big East tournament. Do you think that might have been the case? I don't know what the handle was pre-flop on UConn, but I think looking at the bracket, and as you said, Alabama or Houston potentially in the Final Four, do you think that was some concern for people not taking UConn?
Yeah, and I haven't spoken to anyone behind the book necessarily to know the exact numbers, but my sense is that UConn was not a bad result for books. I do know that we specifically at DraftKings, I can share that we did take one of the Mattress Mac bets on Houston. So that's why when I was tweeting out those betting splits, and every time I tweet those, whether it's games, futures, whatever, you always take it with a grain of salt. It's not something that's giving you the answers. It's not an answer key. There's always, specific instances that are different. And that's why we had, huge Houston bets. It wasn't necessarily that it was big, sharper bets. It's that Mattress Mac made one of his whoppers at DraftKings Sportsbook. I did think going into the bracket, like I told myself I probably won't pick a winner from the bottom right because of those four teams that you mentioned being in there. I thought all of them had the potential to win that region. But I did also have, Arkansas over Kansas in my bracket and as a bet. And UCLA was clearly dinged up, and Gonzaga was a team that I had an 18-1 on that I didn't truly believe in. So I faded pretty hard against UCLA and then eventually UConn. So I guess when you draw it out that way, like the answer was kind of there that UConn was the team, and UConn was the team that I had in my bracket to come out of that region. But I told myself because of the competition there, like I'm not going to necessarily bet them. So I think that might have been some people's thought process that it was one of the more difficult paths, and maybe that kept some people off of UConn. So I personally didn't hit any 12-1, 13-1, 20-1, any of the big numbers, but they were still by far my most profitable team of the tournament because of the way that I did play them. I was kind of unclear of those middle rounds. So my initial biggest bet when the bracket was revealed was UConn to make the Sweet 16, which was an Iona and St. Mary's path. And they did that. And then I was like, well, let's see what they can do with some of these bigger teams. Then they got through to the Final Four, and we saw the Final Four field. And that's one of those times where, I don't need to know what I could have gotten them at a week ago. We are where we are. They were minus 125. They were clearly the best team in the field. They showed they were clearly the best team in the field. And my biggest bet of the tournament from that stage was just UConn minus 125 to win it all. So it's just kind of playing the market with where things stand. And yeah, I guess maybe UConn could have been more profitable for me if I felt more confident in them in their region. But I'm comfortable with the way I played things. And I think books are comfortable with it too, because they probably did avoid a little bit more UConn money when that bracket was revealed.
And luck of the draw or no luck of the draw, we had throughout the season, we had a Houston, we had a UCLA, we had a UConn, and we had an Arkansas. And, you want them sprinkled all over the board. You don't want them all on one side. Yeah. And so it did break obviously you got Houston, UCLA. I mean, it didn't break the way we wanted to pre-flop once the tournament started. But as the tournament progressed, we weren't afraid of Purdue. I couldn't buy into Purdue. And for some reason, I didn't buy into Kansas. I, like you, had Arkansas going far. I had San Diego State going far. I didn't have them going to the Final Four, but I thought they were going to be pesky. And I didn't think they were getting enough respect. What I didn't understand, and maybe you can help me here, you got the Final Four, okay? You had UConn minus 5.5 on Saturday. They already said they'd be 6.5 against San Diego State and 7.5 against FAU. You had a 4-1 on San Diego State, a plus 550 on Miami, and a plus 700 on FAU. Can you tell me how you could be allowed? I think South Point had minus 112. They were allowing people to go to the window and bet UConn in the Final Four to just win 2 games as 5.5 and potentially 6.5 or 7.5 point favorites. I just couldn't wrap my head around that number.
Yeah, so I guess that would be just doing some numbers here. There was some look ahead that was 4.5 with San Diego State and UConn.
Okay.
That obviously wasn't the case. I guess by the numbers, if you want a money line parlay UConn with, at the time, let's call it 5.5 point favorites in both games, because San Diego State look ahead was 4.5 and it opened like 6 and got bet up. So let's call both games 5.5. If you do that, you're looking around even money minus 110, right? So like by the numbers, that's what a 2-game money line parlay on UConn would be. The difference here is it's not your normal 2-game money line parlay. You could kind of tell with UConn that if the other team was going to have to play, whether the other team, Miami, FAU, San Diego State, whoever the opponent at any point of the Final Four was going to have to play like a perfect game, while UConn had an off game and a poor shooting game. And even so, like, UConn isn't like Alabama where they just rely on the threes. They have their defense and they score inside. So like, it was going to be really hard for them to lose. And I think that a lot of us identified that. And that's why, anything really minus 150 or better in my mind entering the Final Four on UConn, I was going to roll with. And, in this scenario, it worked out and makes us look smart. I will say, it doesn't, like, just to play devil's advocate, and you have to be careful, there are instances where it doesn't work out. Like, I got overly confident in Alabama on the other side of the bracket once their path kind of opened up with all the teams getting bounced on that left side. I did have a Creighton 40-1 future that helped me, but I kind of got ahead and planned on that Alabama-Creighton matchup and bet a lot of Alabama to win the region. And then it became San Diego State. So, if you didn't have a futures ticket there and you got involved, like, that's an instance. It's a little different because you're not at the Final Four. Made it a little more clear with UConn, but that's an example of, apples to oranges, but a comparison of how that can kind of go wrong. But again, because of my Creighton 40-1 ticket, and I didn't actually believe they were going to win it all, it allowed me to, even after losing a big chunk on Alabama, it allowed me to come back, bet San Diego State pretty big in that game and make out okay. But going back to UConn, like, that's probably another reason I didn't have a UConn future. I had some UCLA and I had some Gonzaga. So when the bracket comes out, it's like, well, am I really going to add UConn and have 3 in the same field? No, but I'll bet them to the Sweet 16. And then, Gonzaga, once Gonzaga and UConn had that Saturday night Elite 8 game, I was like, this is UConn, and I have the Gonzaga futures ticket. So I'm just going to take a massive chunk of this and put it on the UConn money line, and worked out. So when you're betting these futures, I would just be very open to, like, it doesn't mean you have to then root for that team blindly the entire way. Like, if you hit a point where you're pretty confident in the other side, you have all that money coming to you if the future hits, you can start using some of that to hedge, I guess, earlier than you would think if you really want to.
And I've preached, I preach the futures market, and in today's world, it's almost like the stock market, where it changes day to day, week to week, where before you'd have to get out to your local casinos, and now in the app world, and you'd have to bet it, and they'd hold your money for 6 months, or sometimes 8 or 9 months if it was a football and you're out there in March or April. And nowadays you can wait. You can wait pre-flop of the tournament. You could have waited, Elite 8, Sweet 16, and always get these numbers. It's magical what you can do now because of the sports market and the app world.
Yeah, I think what I learned from this year, is I'm probably not going to bet much until we see the bracket, because the numbers aren't that much different, and then you see the path, which is one of the biggest advantages that you can have. So other than I bet Creighton 40-1 in like May. It worked out, obviously, but the funny thing is, when the bracket came out, Creighton was 40-1. So like it didn't even do anything for me. Now, I probably wouldn't have bet Creighton when the bracket came out, so it actually benefited me to have that ticket in pocket, because they made a run and I was able to make some money going against them. But yeah, I think just unless you're getting your UConn 100-1 tomorrow, identify whoever that is in this year's field. Unless you think you can do that right now, like I'm going to be waiting until we see a bracket to put futures out, most likely.
And you nailed it, and then I'll transition from it. I talked backstage. I got too cute. DraftKings did have an initial UConn 100-1. I know everyone on social media is seeing the 60 or 66-1. There was 100-1 out there. I got cute. I says, let's see how the season starts. And unfortunately, 14-0 and number 2 in the country. Obviously, that 100-1 and 60-1 was long gone there. Let's move on. NFL draft less than a month away. For the locals, our friends at 98.5 pumping the Lamar Jackson has kind of really slowed down. This morning, I heard potentially of the Colts moving up into the draft and grabbing a quarterback, Anthony Richardson. And the funny thing is, they were getting poo-pooed, because why would you move up in the draft, lose draft picks, and draft a wild card like Anthony Richardson when you can go and get Lamar Jackson? So any thoughts there?
Depends who you are. If you're ready to win now, you go get Lamar Jackson. If you're rebuilding, you take Anthony Richardson, because he has, Josh Allen, Cam Newton prime type of potential. Will he reach it? I don't know. He needs some work for sure. But this is a total case by case. Depends who you are. If you're the Colts, how many quarterbacks have they brought through and recycled there? Every year they have a new quarterback. If I'm the Colts, I want a new guy to be the face of the franchise, a rookie. If I'm the Patriots, you're built to win. You want to go get Lamar Jackson. So like total team by team basis for me on what you would want to do in that situation.
Team totals are out for next year. How is DraftKings dealing with Rodgers? The assumption is obviously he's going to the Jets. Lamar Jackson, are your Ravens totals baked in with the assumption Lamar will be the quarterback there on the first game in September?
I would say Lamar Jackson is most likely gone.
Okay.
Would be my opinion. Let me see exactly where the number's at right now to get a better idea. But yeah, aren't most people kind of operating under the assumption that he's going to be gone? They can, I guess the difference is they can franchise him and stuff, but like, what are you going to get out of him if you trap someone somewhere they don't want to be? Like, he already sat out games last year, so I would just be terrified if I was Baltimore to actually do that. So that's what makes me think that that they would move on. In terms of the win total, let me see if it's moved at all. Let's see. Is it even up? Yeah, it's up. All right, minus 125 to over 8.5. I can't play anything on it because they're still a good team right now, and you would think they would try and find some type of solution at quarterback to compete in the short term. So if anything, maybe you're getting a discount on them. But yeah, it's I don't know how I would bet anything on the Ravens right now and have a good feel about it.
Draft less than a month. This is your time of year. You love the draft. How's your homework going? And are you listening to a lot of the so-called experts, or how's Julian formulating his first round right now?
I'm definitely behind where I was last year. But I think we also have a lot less information than we did last year. And I also think that the market is slower to set because it's a draft market. And this was bound to happen. I'm thrilled that we're still even offered draft props because, it's not a competitive sporting event. It's an information-based market. But as we do every year at DraftKings is setting the market. They're first to release all these draft props. I haven't even seen another book offering draft position over unders yet, which we have there. So there's some out. I put one play out on Jalen Carter from Georgia over 7.5. We opened that on DraftKings. I think the whole situation going on with him is going to cause him to slide, obviously. And I also think that, we're going to see quarterbacks fly off the board early. So some of those positions just start to fill up. Like teams are going to move up to get quarterbacks. This could be the first draft ever where the first 4 picks are quarterbacks. I don't know if I necessarily believe that. But 3 of the top 4 are going to be quarterbacks. So I put that play out. I'm going to work on it a little more. But I need more information and I need more markets to get released. I know like another one I like, Boston College receiver,
Zay Flowers.
So his draft position opened 24.5. I think he's going to go pretty early. The issue is that under 24.5 is minus 210. So I can't bet it until I know he's going to go early. And again, this is different than laying a minus 210 like money line, which I would never do unless the market was 400 and you're actually getting value or whatever. So it's different because if you know something, then laying minus 210 doesn't matter. So that's something that I'm going to be working on. We'll see if the juice levels off on that. If it does, though, that probably isn't a good thing for him to go under. So I don't know. Maybe it moves down to 23.5, 22.5, and you can get it at a better price. And we, learn that there are teams in the late teens that are going to want him or something. That's the type of stuff I'm looking at right now. Jalen Carter, by the way, moved. He took a lot of under money. That's minus 155 to the under. So you can get plus 120 right now if you think he's going to go over that 7.5. Anthony Richardson, by the way. Anthony Richardson's the only over-under draft position that we have on the board for a quarterback. And he's 4.5 with under 4.5 at minus 240. So the market's saying one of those 4 picks is going to be Anthony Richardson. And if you think he slides even to number 5, you can get plus 190 on that. But like I always say, last thing is you're not betting a draft based on what you think. You need to base it off of information from people that would know.
And it only takes one off the chart move to screw this whole thing up. And apologies for trying to cut in. That was my fault there. My two quarterback questions to you are: if you had to choose today, and we got a month to go, any chance that you think Levis could go in front of Richardson? That's number one. Number two, 4.5 over quarterbacks, meaning Hooker gets drafted in the first round.
Yep.
Do you like the plus money there, or do you just think it's going to be the 4 and someone will come back around in the second round to grab Hooker?
I would lean towards taking the plus money on 4. I don't know if I would want Hooker or even Levis in the first round personally, but I think it probably gets there. That one opened like plus 500 and got absolutely steamed down, as it should. Like, it doesn't mean it's going to hit. It just means it shouldn't be 5-1. It should be plus 120 or whatever it is. I would lean towards yes. I think that the quarterbacks will go. And yeah, I don't think Carolina has necessarily decided who they're taking. Also, I think that the steam, let that go. The steam on Stroud was based off the idea that that's who Carolina wanted, and they never said that. It's just an idea. So, like, I think that I would not be surprised if Carolina took Stroud, Richardson, or Young, and we just don't know yet. So we're gonna learn more soon, I would hope, and the market's gonna make some pretty big turns still.
Well, it's funny because the 49ers, quote unquote, made the power move and moved all the way up to get Trey Lance. And, there was some rumors they were moving up to get Mac Jones. They got Trey Lance.
Mac Jones was like minus 300 to be that pick at one point in time.
Correct. And all the mock drafts before Carolina moved up at 9 had them getting Anthony Richardson. So if they made the power move to go all the way up, they shocked the world, obviously, if they grabbed Richardson at 1 there. It's definitely going to be interesting. As for Hooker, I think I loved him at Tennessee. I mean, he kind of fits the new NFL, and the quarterbacks obviously he needs
He's
to be
old. That's the problem.
Yeah.
But if he's good, then take him. What is he, 24 or something? 25? Like, he's old.
He is a little old, a little AARP money. So, all right, I got to curse for a second at your locals there. The Celtics set up very nicely, 13, 14-point favorites at Washington. No Beal, no Kuzma, and they lay an egg, and then they go into Milwaukee and win by 30. I mean, I know they play Philly here. You're the Celtics season ticket holder. Give me your temperature on the Celtics. Had an opportunity to grab the 1 seed. Obviously, probably not going to get it. What's your thoughts with the Celtics with just a handful of days left?
Yeah, they can be annoying. But after that Washington game, so I guess now after the Utah win, because they were double-digit favorites in that, the Celtics in their last 15 games as double-digit favorites, which goes back to December 16th, they're 7-8 straight up. So they're a coin flip game on the wrong side of a coin flip at 7-8 when they're favored by double digits. They have a problem with sleepwalking through certain spots. I think maybe some of that can be on Missoula. But Thursday in Milwaukee was an awful spot. I had a pretty big bet on Celtics money line in that Celtics plus points with the money line in that game. Awful spot for Milwaukee coming home after a road trip, second night of a back-to-back. But the Celtics can step up for those games. They've been off since Friday now. I think they play a pretty good game tonight in Philly on a national game against a good team. We're going to see going into the playoffs, because going into the playoffs, you don't have these spots where you're favored by double digits and you sleepwalk. They're going to be all the big games. Now, they still let go of the rope sometimes, but I need to see a little bit of the postseason before I can really determine anything, and I think we'll have a pretty good idea of what they're going to be, because when they turn it on, they're the best team in the league. So will Missoula be able to get that out of them and capture what they were able to do last year? We'll find out. But I feel that as annoying as those Wizards type of games are, they're not going to matter that much other than taking away the chance at the 1 seed from you. If you can win a couple of those games, you've got the 1 seed. So that hurts. But in terms of their outlook in the playoffs, like how they're going to play, I don't know if it's going to matter, because you're not going to have those stupid Tuesday night in Washington, D.C. spots when you're playing the Bucks on Thursday night anymore. So it may be completely meaningless not to let them off the hook for an awful performance, but it might be meaningless.
Any fear whatsoever with a potential early playoff date with the Heat?
Miami obviously can play them tough. I don't think Miami's the same team this year as they were last year. Jimmy Butler can always be scary. Bam Adebayo is not a great matchup for anybody. So definitely a tougher 7 seed than you would like to mess around with. But the first round matchup last year was the Nets, so it doesn't get much tougher than that. I would like to see what the series spread would be, I guess, on Boston, Miami. Are they going to be is it going to be the favorite to do it in 5 or 6 games? Be curious to see what the price on the -1.5 games would be there. What?
In my head, I got the Celtics probably around -400 in that series.
Oh, sure, yeah. So then, what's the -1.5? You're probably laying some decent juice on that too.
165-ish, probably.
Yeah. So, short answer, no. I'm not worried about anybody in the first round. After that, the series will get tough.
We talked backstage about the Wild Wild West, and I liked exactly what you said. Here at ECSI, we have September. We gave out the Bucks Eastern Conference champs, NBA champs. I still don't have a future out in the West. I like what you said. Wait until the brackets to see. I've been talking all year with you. When are we going to grab a Clippers future? You said, Jeff, wait. So tell the public, everyone watching and listening, still sitting and waiting in the West right now?
Not doing anything. Lakers are obviously coming on. Clippers have fallen back in the odds. I can't trust the Warriors because they can't win on the road. I trust the Nuggets at home, but they're priced appropriately. The Suns are the favorites, and we still don't know exactly what they're going to be with Kevin Durant. There's just too many moving parts. I feel like we don't know what any of these teams are because they're all playing at different levels in the regular season. And obviously that's where you want to work to get your edge, identify who is really what, and find something good in the market. I'm not in a rush to. I think it's tough to tell what these teams are right now. So I want to see the bracket, see the matchups. How can I tell you to bet a future on the Suns or Warriors right now if the Suns and Warriors are a 4-5 first-round matchup, which they could be? Why would you want to do that to yourself? So, and the numbers are going to change minimally when we get the bracket, almost like March Madness. So, I'm waiting. I'm going to bet the West series by series. I'll bet the play-in games. I'll have plenty going on, I think. I just don't think I need to take anybody right now. Honestly, if I did anything, it would almost be like some of these March Madness long shots. Like the Kings are going to be the 3 seed and they're 20-1. Like, what if you take the Kings 20-1, see who they get in the first round, and if it bounces right for them or like they win a game 1, you might get a great price, and then you can just start hedging out then a game into the playoffs because you have 20-1 on a 3 seed that's up a game to nothing or something like that. Like, I think there would be ways to buy out of that given how large your payout would be if that bet actually hit, which I don't give it much of a chance of hitting, but because you have it in your back pocket, you can start betting bigger money against them at a certain point in time. So yeah, futures in general in the NBA right now, even if you want to talk East, pass. I got nothing.
I know you're busy. I'll just we had 2 more locals. Bruins President Cup, #1 seed, the favorite to come out of the East, the favorite to win the Cup. We don't talk a lot of hockey, you and I here. You got anything in the hockey market right now?
Nothing. I don't want to bet the Bruins. I probably don't want to bet anybody in the East. Maybe there's a good bet out West because it's lighter. Who is it? The Avalanche? Avalanche are pretty good, right? What are they, like 3-1?
Mm-hmm.
That would be my hockey play if I'm here to give a hockey play.
The crawl has been going the whole time. Before I get to that, anything for us to go look for at the DraftKings Sportsbook? Promos, Julian special, parlays, boosts, whatever you got for us this Tuesday.
Yeah, obviously Masters. I'm not a golf guy, but there's, I think, So new customers, you add plus 1,000 to whoever you're betting on. So if you're betting somebody plus 1,000, you get them plus 2,000. And then for anybody, you can add 300 plus 300, to anybody you bet. So whatever, 1,200 to 1,500.
Okay.
So you can go get those. There's some other stuff, Tiger boosts if you're a Tiger guy. Today, I think the promo that's getting run is a 44% profit boost for 4-4. It's April 4th, I guess. 44% profit boost on a parlay today. So I don't know if you're slapping together. There's big NBA favorites. Slap them together, boost it 44%. Maybe there's something there, or throw an MLB favorite in there. But yeah, there you go. 44% profit boost on a parlay.
The crawler's been going the whole time. Go follow him on Twitter at Julian Edlow. Go follow his work at DraftKings, at DK Sportsbook, at DK Live. Go check out his podcast at the Unreasonable Odd Podcast. Julian, always a pleasure. Have a great, great week. Enjoy the Red Sox tonight, and we'll catch up with you next Tuesday.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Jeff.
Take care, Julian. The one and only Julian Edlow. Go follow him. Great, great friend, great colleague. Will be right where I am right now, friendly Fenway, as the Red Sox take on the Pirates tonight. Guys, get your notepads. Today, 1 o'clock, Pop DiBiase live from L.A. We'll get the L.A. temperature on what's going on with the Lakers, the Dodgers. Pop's breakdown of UConn and the madness there. 3 o'clock, Andrew McGinnis from Wager Talk talking NHL. There is a huge slate tonight. 5 o'clock, myself and Riley will get you caught up with the closing bell. If you watched the closing bell last night, holy cow, were my eyes on fire for team totals. Pirates, Tigers, overs, first 5. So you got to come and grab us then. 7 o'clock, myself and Scotty Webb at Webby20 MLB, breaking down the MLB, what's going on so far this season, what's going on tonight, maybe a little peek ahead to Wednesday. Anyone questioning us, want to be an ECSI VIP? Send me a DM at EC Sports Invest. Send me an email at eastcoastsportsinvestors@gmail.com for just $3 a day. That's a Starbucks Venti coffee. You can get everything delivered right to your cell phone and emailed. A lot of people been jumping on. Don't get left in the dugout. Get into the batter's box, step up, and let's go swing a home run. From myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, from Julian Edlow at Julian Edlow. We wish everyone a great day. Enjoy the morning, and I'll be back at 1. See you soon.